Hey guys, welcome back to Rossoneri TV. I'm Gio and I'm with Adamo here for the last match preview of the season finale against Atalanta. Finally, a season of so many troubles, so many hard times for us Milan fans is coming to an end. And we are playing none other than Atalanta, a team that, of course, I wasn't expecting them to finish in 17th place this season. Or around there, and they really have, just done enough to avoid relegation this season. I guess you could say it like that. A team that really wasn't promising all along. They actually have better seasons than this, but this season, just a big mess altogether. And Milan, of course, coming off a great win last week against Torino, a 3-0 win, the biggest win of the season for us. And we saw the return of Eshadao in that game, getting himself a brace. And, of course, another goal on the penalty shot by Gianpaolo Pazzo, Panini, Pazzini, whatever you want to call him. That's the name. But moving on, guys, as I said, it's a season finale. And finally, I just can't wait for this season to be done, as we all do. And, of course, moving on into the summer, we're not really going to get into it in this video. But moving on, there's going to be lots of transfer rumors, discussions, and so forth. And we will, of course, cover it all on Rossoneri TV. So make sure to subscribe, stay tuned for all that, and so forth. But let's get into this match, Adamo. Of course, as I mentioned before, Milan 3-0 win against Torino last weekend at the San Siro, in our last match at the San Siro for the season. And now we'll be playing at the Stadio Azzurri d'Italia, of course, in Atalanta. Do you expect some of the same thing that we saw against Torino, or you expect the usual Milan that we've seen all year round?
It was kind of hard to predict, considering that, against Torino, I don't know if it was a one-shot kind of thing where it just came out of nowhere, or if Inzaghi actually knew what he was doing. It was kind of hard to tell, considering that all season we've been complete shite, and all of a sudden we win 3-0 when it doesn't matter, just what you want. But I'm actually expecting, even though he hasn't done it, and I say it all the time, for him to actually start youth players this game, mainly because he's been hoping all along that somehow if he gets results in the last couple of games, maybe he'll get his job back. We all knew he wouldn't, but obviously Galliani has been saying that he has been updating him throughout his adventures chasing after Ancelotti, of course, which we'll talk about later on in future videos. If that ever does get finalized, let's just hope and pray it does. But he has been telling him, obviously we're looking at Ancelotti and, we still love you as a person, but we're pretty much saying you're going. So hopefully, knowing that he's going to be going, he'll actually play the youth players, because there's literally nothing else to play for at all, like zero, nothing. If I don't see at least two players, at least youth players, starting this match, forget appearances. I don't want to see 70th minute appearances. We're facing Atalanta, who've had a terrible season, as you mentioned. So if I don't see at least two youth players starting this match, we'll be pretty upset, just like against Torino, even though we got a 3-0 win. But I definitely think it's a winnable match, as they all are. But Milan is Milan, so let's just see what happens.
Yeah, well said. And, of course, you mentioned it so many times in these past few weeks. What you want to see is youth players, especially in the last match of the season, guys. Come on, at least. But chances are we're probably going to see much of what happened last game against Torino, and that is playing youth players like Mastali, for example, in the dying moments of the match. But that's not even a certainty. I think the only reason Mastali actually played was because we were up 3-0 at that point. And he really, at that point, it's like, okay, I think we won the match for sure now. And that's why Inzaghi decided to field him, which, by the way, Inzaghi was actually kicked out of the match there for some obvious complaining. But other than that, I'm not expecting a similar match against Torino, because, as we have mentioned several times, Milan this season, they've been so obvious, and obviously they've been getting wins, and the week after they've just been complete shit, like a complete opposite of the team that you're just seeing doing so well and scoring 3 goals against Torino and keeping a clean sheet, guys, most of all, which is something we haven't seen all season round. And also Abbiati started last game. I don't know if he's going to be starting even this game, but speaking of which, why don't we take a look at the probable starting lineups? Now, of course, we're going to start off with Milan here because, once again, they're going to be going with a 4-3-3. And speaking of which, it's a 4-3-3 that, it had its ups and downs this season. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But that's obviously what you're going to get when the team just doesn't have a plan altogether and just play for the fuck of it, if I may add. So Diego Lopez is expected to start in net. Of course, we saw Abbiati, as I said before, against Torino. Will we see him again? Maybe yes, maybe not. But chances are that we might see Diego Lopez in this final match, of course, of 2014-2015. Back four made up of Zapata, Mexes, Paletta, Bocchetti. Midfield of Poli, De Jong, Van Ginkel, and up front on the Pazzini, Esharawi. Now, of course, the main players here for Milan, we got Esharawi that he's just scored 2 goals there against Torino. Very big goals for him, not only for the team, but also for his self-esteem. Going into the summer, of course, you want to end the season on the right note, as all of these players do. But for Esharawi especially, a guy that really didn't have so many appearances this season and really just couldn't really, how can I mention this, put himself out there to prove what he's worth this season with so many injuries. And when he actually was on the bench, he was never being called up as a starter. So really a tough season for Esharawi. Great to see him coming back to his scoring ways against Torino, 2 goals against them. And hopefully we'll see another one or 2 against Atalanta, which will be really the icing on the cake for him. Other than that, we got Onda, a guy that he's going to be playing on the right most probably. In the past recent matches, he's a player that, he's actually been doing a lot better than he has all season round. Much criticism going to Onda, despite scoring 5 or 6 goals in those opening matches of the season. But after that, he kind of went into sleeper mode. But other than that, he's kind of providing assists and actually providing good attacking forward for Milan altogether in these past few games. And of course, I think the most vital man in this team, Nigel de Jong, a guy that so much has been put in this past week of his renewal. He might get his renewal. We surely hope so, because De Jong, obviously, despite this team being so shit all season round, he's actually one of the very few players that has saved himself all around in this team and has actually saved this team from further embarrassments. Now, let's take a look at Atalanta, because they'll be going with a 4-3-3, similar formation, of course, to Inzaghi and Milan. And of course, they have a few players that are quite interesting. If I may mention Baseli, a player that, of course, Milan has been going after for such a long time now. He's actually one of the transfer targets for Milan in this summer. So we'll see if he actually ends up coming to Milan or not. He's not a player that scores a lot, of course, as you would expect. But obviously, he's a very young talent that could get the job done, and of course could definitely add some talent to this team that we surely need, especially in the midfield. Then we got guys like Dennis, of course, been the top scorer for Atalanta for God knows how long, really. He's going to be leading the attack with 8 goals this season. Of course, usually has goals in the double digits. You're not really expecting to see Dennis with only a goal tally of less than 10 goals. So not a very good season for Dennis altogether, but Atalanta in general hasn't been good. And of course, another player to watch is Morales, because this guy is pretty much Dennis's partner in crime. This guy has 5 goals so far this season. Once again, a player that will not end their season with double digits. But of course, you could all obviously provide a very good attack, just like Onda could for Milan at very random times. Now, moving on, Adamo, of course, that was pretty much the starting lineups, the probable starting lineups that we could see for Milan and Atalanta. What do you make of these starting lineups? What do you make specifically for the Milan starting lineup? Very similar to the one against Torino, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's more something that you would expect as a Milan fan. I hope to God that we don't see Zapata starting a right back. That would probably be my worst nightmare. Not for his ability or whatever he would do, even though he hasn't had the best of seasons when given the chance, because he hasn't played in like I don't even know how long. But besides that, I just rather see, even if I'm not too aware of the Primavera right back. I don't watch the Primavera too often, and when I do, it's usually random matches here and there. But whoever it is, I'd rather see them, even if they're the most terrible right back in the world. I'd rather see the Primavera right back or any youth team in any sector of Milan start instead of Zapata, because they'll actually gain something. Zapata, it's not like, oh, he's going to score like a hat trick and his value is going to go up by 10 mil and we're going to sell him. No, it's not going to happen. So you might as well play a youth player where it's an experience where they'll cherish forever, obviously, getting their start for Milan and getting their feet wet in the league. Obviously, I'm sure all you guys know that I'm very crazy about these youth players in the dying embers of the season. So let's just hope that Zapata doesn't start right back. But for Atalanta, obviously with Gomez and Dennis and Mraz as well, all three of those guys, a very very dangerous attack, as you could say. Obviously, not having the best seasons as you mentioned, but the three of them, a lot of pace between the wingers, and Dennis usually finishes out the job. So let's hopefully that's not the case for Milan.
Yeah, and of course, as you mentioned there, hasn't been a good season for Atalanta at all. And as I said before, Dennis is usually expected to end in the double digits tally in terms of goals. And pretty much he probably has a personal goal against Milan to at least reach double digits. I mean, he's only 2 goals away from that goal. Very possible against a very shaky Milan team all season round, especially in defense. As I said, we might play a very good match like we did against Torino and actually keep a clean sheet. But sometimes, once again, we actually lost against Atalanta last time around at the San Siro. So anything is possible. That's my main message against this Milan team. Until, of course, further strengths come into this team and we actually have a team that's very compact and can make every performance the same in terms of good performances, of course. Until then, we're always going to be a very vulnerable team, especially in the back. And that's been the problem all season round. Now, finally, it's prediction time, Adamo. Your last prediction of the season, how does it feel, eh? But I think Adamo's quite ready to give his prediction here. What do you think of the scoreline? And maybe why don't you shoot some goal scorers in there as well?
Ladies and gentlemen, last week I predicted Torino to win the match, and Milan won 3-0. Yes, we kept a clean sheet. We decimated Torino with Pazzini getting its 100th goal and El Shaarawy getting the brace. So this week, I'm going to predict an Atalanta win just for the fact of since I predicted against Torino that we would lose, as I said, and Milan proved me wrong. So, guys, a 2-1 Atalanta win with Dennis getting double digits this season and El Shaarawy scoring a goal. Lock it in.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to go with a similar strategy that I did last week, and I went with the tie. So I'm going to say another tie in this match. I'll go for a 1-1 tie, I think Atalanta is actually, as I said, didn't do all season round, but they actually picked up a good result against Milan last time around the San Siro, where pretty much the key against Atalanta is this. You got to score first. Because if Atalanta scores first, they know how to park that bus so well that really, especially for a team like Milan that has problems generating attacks all season round, it's going to be tough altogether. So I hope Milan do get the win, of course, but I'm going to go with a 1-1 tie. On that note, guys, don't forget to leave your predictions as well in the comment section. What do you think about the starting lineups? What do you think about the match as a whole? And as I mentioned at the start of the video, don't forget to subscribe to Rossoneri TV to stay updated with everything AC Milan, especially in these summer months and once the season ends. We got so many videos coming for you, from a season review, transfer rumors, discussions, and much, much more. Everything you need to stay updated with AC Milan this summer, we got it here on RossoneriTV.com. On that note, guys, we'll be leaving you with this video. And, of course, come back on Saturday for the pre-match hangout and the match review. And, of course, until then, Forza Milan.